Ayurveda is a theory-based medicine. It is not a protocol-based medicine. It is a theory-based medicine. And the uniqueness, the originality of Ayurveda is the integrity of its theoretical platform. With the concept of Tridosha theory, we are able to address any health crisis. Even though it is an established disease with complex pathology and of course a very complex nomenclature, still I think somebody with the basic understanding of Ayurveda will be able to decipher the situation, decipher the crisis, approach the crisis effectively and come up with some practicable intervention. That is the strength of Ayurveda. So that way only we will be seeing Jwara also. But remember that Jwara Chikitsa in Ayurveda is in the center stage in the backdrop of COVID-19. Every line in the textbook has become more relevant. So that we should keep in our mind. So don't try to get shortcuts, but let us learn the things from the very basics and start doing things on the firm footing of the basic principles. When we come to learn or understand Jwara, I think we can find that based on the Nidana, we can see that Jwara is classified into two types. Everyone knows it, I'm sure. That is Nija and Agantu. So we have Nija Jwara and Agantu Jwara. Also, one point is very important, that is the understanding of Jwara in another style, that is Swatantra and Paratantra. That is also very important. Swatantra. Yadhasva janmopashaya. Swatantra spashta lakshana. That is the definition of a Swatantra Vyadhi. Yadhasva janmopashaya. Swatantra spashta lakshana. Whereas Paratantra is Vipadidam. It does not have Yathasva Janmopashaya. Similarly, a Jwaram, when it is having Yathasva Janmopashaya, what does it mean? It means when you see a Jwara, whether that Jwara is having Yathasva Janma, its own origin, Yathasva Janma Upashaya, its own treatment, and Spashta Lakshanata, then only it can be considered as Swatantra Jwara. What is the importance of this division? Importance is there are many clinical conditions where Jwara is a part of its Lakshanas, many Vyadhis. Jwaram is presented as Santapam. So wherever there is Santapam, especially a widespread full body spread of sandabam, that will be mentioned in the lakshanas as jvara. In Visarpam there will be jvaram. In Raktapittam some stages there can be jvaram. In Pandu some stages there can be jvaram. In Kasam some stages there can be jvaram. In Rajayakshma there can be jvaram. In Vadashonitam there can be jvaram. In many situations, many conditions, there can be jvaram as a lakshana. And in such conditions, you cannot take that lakshana jvara as a swadandra roga. And you need not treat that jvara as a swadandra roga. Even if the priority of the patient may be the jvara. And many a times we know that a persisting jvara may be the major presentation. Patients may come to you with the persisting jvara not responding to the conventional line of treatment. Many times conventional line of treatment means they might have purchased the paracetamol from the local medical store and consumed it for a week, once, twice or thrice a day, or whenever they like to, and it is not responding. So the reason for which they have come to you is jvara. But that cannot be or need not be a jvara, swadandra roga. This is to be kept in mind always. Even if the patient is complaining of jvara, not responding to the routine program of management, then it may be a paratantra jvara. The pradhana vyadhi may be different. And understanding it as a paratantra vyadhi is a challenging situation. When the patient complains of jvara, the Vaidya tends to consider it as a jvara and treat it like a jvara. So we should be very cautious. Whenever you examine a patient, we have to keep certain things in our mind. Number one, first of all, we should have a familiarity with the Agama, Aptopadesha, textbooks. We should have surveyed the textbooks, and we should be surveying the textbooks continuously and should be familiar with what is explained. What is explained means what is known regarding a particular situation. What is documented regarding a particular situation. Say for example, if it is jvaram, our context, you should have a broad idea about Swatantra jvaram and Paratantra jvaram, and as far as Paratantra jvara is concerned, in which all situations you can expect jvara as a lakshana. That is very important. Why it is important? Because, see, we know only 3 situations where jvara can be a lakshana. Only 3 situations. One is Swatantra jvara, and 2 other situations where jvara can be a lakshana. Then when a jvara rogi, a patient with the complaint of jvara comes to you, you have very limited options to exclude Neti, neti, neti. This is not that, this is not that, this is not that. That is how we survey actually. So if you have only 3 situations known where Jara can be presented, you will be considering only 3. But if you know 13 situations where Jara can be a symptom, you will be considering one after the other all the 13 options. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Is it D? Exclude, 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 so that you can come to the best possible diagnosis. So keep on visiting the textbook as frequently as possible. Sadadadhyanam chinda. Very important. Now, what we have to do to avoid unnecessary mistakes? 2 things. Number 1, collect as many symptoms, as many presentations, as many informations as possible from the situation of the clinical examination and spread them on your clinical table. Collect the maximum information, maximum presentation. Conventionally, you are taught to avoid leading questions while taking the case. In my opinion, I would say that don't bother about it. You may ask any number of leading questions, doesn't matter, because many a times the patient will have his own version of understanding the disease. And he would like to read the situation in the exact manner as he read the situation. Believe me, I'm telling you the truth. So the patient will try to misguide you many a times. Sometimes he may guide you properly, but there are chances of getting misguided by the patient. So if you permit the patient to come up with the relevant points and you become a clerical writer, you may miss many of the crucial information. So don't avoid leading questions. You may keep on asking leading questions as much as you wish to, so that you get the exact information in the exact context. Number 2, try to understand the symptoms, what they say, what you perceive, what you note down, etc., with maximum completeness and exactness. 2 words. Completeness. Completeness means when you have one symptom told, try to collect all possible connected symptoms. Make it complete. And exactness means try to understand what the patient is experiencing or trying to communicate exactly. That is very important. So, completeness and exactness are very important in order to understand whether the Jwara is Swatantra or Paratantra or whether the jwara is nija or agantu. These are very important points in the present, not only in the present context, always, and not only in the context of jwara, in any disease. In our present day practice, many things have changed because of the change in Desham and Kala. What the Acharyas has documented in their textbooks as independent situations need not be presented in the same way, same manner as it is documented in their times. It is not their fault. When they wrote the textbook, when they documented their clinical experiences and tried to explain it in terms of the Ayurvedic theoretical foundation, there were no other systems in the society like Western medicine. Even though there were other systems available, we do not know, the approaches were not this contradictory like the approaches of Ayurveda and modern medicine. In our times, the presence of modern medicine in the society is so dominant, and the consumption of synthetic medicine is quite regular or common. Hardly we find a person who is not taking a medicine for some reason or the other. And most of the times, the lifestyle diseases, the so-called lifestyle diseases of modern times, of course it is a misnomer as far as Ayurveda is concerned, because all diseases are basically lifestyle related. So the present day lifestyle diseases demand consumption of strong synthetic chemical medicines every day, sometimes one, sometimes more than one, sometimes many. Sometimes they interact with one another, causing more complex issues. Sometimes one medicine itself has many side effects or adverse drug reactions sometimes. So it is with this background that the patient will be coming to you or emerging with a new disease. Say for example, if you remember it right, hardly you will get a clinical situation where you are not supposed to ask the patient, are you a diabetic? That has become a routine question. Do you take any regular medicine? This has become a regular question. So all the disease spectrum has to be evaluated in the backdrop of some regular medicines which are used for managing some or the other lifestyle related diseases. This is very important. I think maybe Charaka or Vagbhada might not have foreseen such a situation. So in the case of Jwara also, when the patient comes to you, they might have already started some allopathic medication, sometimes prescription medicine, sometimes not. So you will have to ask if they have started the fever maybe one day back. Obviously, you will have to ask, have you already taken some medicine? So all these things is becoming many things. You see, thyroid medications, cholesterol medicines, hypertension medicines, diabetes medicines. Sometimes medicines taking for conditions for which these medicines are not proven. Then n number of supplements. So we have to be very cautious while prescribing, while understanding, while diagnosing, while approaching all these things. And another thing is the presence of Agandu factors has changed drastically. In Charaka Samhita, we find a chapter called Janavadudhamsani in Vimanasthan. That chapter is quite a prophetic one, I should say. What Acharya has foreseen or documented, maybe based on some live experience or from some historical points, or as I told, with some sort of a prophetic sense that things are going to be much worse in the future. Anyway, I think that has become a reality. It is not a possibility, it is a reality. The depth, the girth, the depth and the burden of Janavadudhamsana in the present day life is so huge. Of course, the resonating statement in Janavadudhamsaniyam is Tasya Moolam Adharmaha. It is very relevant. It's very relevant. It is becoming more relevant than the times of Charaka. Tasya Moolam Adharmaha. The tendency to acquire more and more ragam, dvesham, moham, lobham, all these sort of ragadi diseases. The tendency to have more and more this wealth, power. So we call it by some interesting names like foreign exchange or many other things, development, civilization, industrialization, globalization, or whatever it is. However, ultimately, it is a reality that these have ended up in wider and deeper manifestations of Janavadudhamsana and ended up in more and more Agandu factors. Like many microorganisms. And there is a continuous conflict between man and the other creatures on earth, including microorganisms, animals, and other links of the ecosystem, of the food chain. So these are all contributing for the shift in the emergence of diseases. And we will have to see them in the light of our concepts, basic principles. दोषादुष्टा रसैर्धातून् दूषयन्ति उभये मलान् अधोद्वे सप्त शिरसि घानि स्वेदवहानि च मलामलायनानि स्युर्यथा स्वं तेष्वदो गदाः. Jara makes no exemption in this regard. And as far as Agandu factors are concerned, Agandurhi Vyatha. First, they emerge with some symptoms. Paschada doshaihi anubadhyade. Later on, create issues in the system or get entangled with a pre-existing dosha dushti, making the situation worse or uncontrollable. Te jvara kevala purvam vyapyande nandaram malai. That is how it is specified by Acharya Vagbhata. Now, coming to the understanding of Jvara or Nidana specifically, Jvara Nidana, Agandu is a factor, we have mentioned it. The Abhishanga factors, Abhikhada factors, and the remaining two in Agandu Jvara, that means the